Hello and welcome to Black Bear Atheist. I was gonna react on a daily dose of wisdom video that he did on Pier Morgan and this guy talking about there's no evidence for evolution and basically reacting to what Tucker said and Richard Dawkins mixing it all together. It was an interesting video until I deleted it by mistake. So here I am making another video on daily dose, but I believe this would be more interesting. This is putting all together all the theories we have in a sense and which one is best to explain the universe. So Daily Dose believes it's God. That's the best explanation. Obviously, I don't think so because that doesn't make any sense. But here we are, and the title of the video is Why God is the Best Explanation for the Universe. Let's get into it.
All of the different universe generating mechanisms that have been proposed, some based on something called string theory, others based on something called inflationary cosmology, themselves require prior fine-tuning in the universe generating mechanisms.
What has gotten lost in translation to make that word God seem so unscientific, so unreasonable to so many people? Let's dive in.
One of the scientists who first
One thing, there's no evidence for a supernatural event, so you can't even prove that a God exists. This is just belief on blind faith.
discovered these fine-tuning parameters was Fred Hoyle. And Hoyle was a pretty aggressive scientific atheist. He opposed the Big Bang and even gave the Big Bang its name, the Big Bang, as a kind of pejorative to make fun of the concept. But after he discovered some of these fine-tuning parameters, he had a shift in his philosophical perspective, in his worldview. And he was later quoted as saying that a common sense interpretation of the data, the fine-tuning data, suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics and chemistry to make life possible. And I would say I love the way the monkeys always make it into the origins discussion, even if it's in physics.
It always goes back to monkeys.
Always monkeys, either at a typewriter or something. Yeah.
There are other scientific hypotheses that don't use God as an explanation for all this. One is the simulation matrix theory, which Elon Musk talks about, or the idea of a multiverse. And when I had Neil deGrasse Tyson on the Astro...
Because Elon Musk is a scientist that we would love to listen to. I'm not saying the guy isn't a smart guy, but is he really a scientist, people, to just listen to his idea? Like, is that really a news? If a scientific theory is a thing and scientists are studying it, is Elon Musk the one that you should be... Nope, I'm gonna keep going.
Physicist.
Yeah.
He said this. What was there before the beginning of the universe? Everyone asks this question. What's the simple answer?
Oh, I'm delighted I can respond to you. We don't know. But we got top people working on it. Okay.
You know what?
There may have been a multiverse.
I like that. I like the honesty. So we genuinely don't know. People just don't know, right?
That is the best answer anyone could have given. We don't know. If you say to God, prove it. Intelligent design, that is bullshit. There's no intelligent design in the universe. When you look at it, if you consider this intelligent, then you're clearly not looking at the same universe we all are in.
We don't know. There might have been a multiverse that's birthing universes, and we're one of them. But that just pushes the question one step further before that. What was around before the multiverse? So we just don't know. It's a frontier question right now.
What is your response? I mean, you know, a lot of astrophysicists and Elon Musk and others think it's actually about the multiverse. For those who don't know, what is the multiverse? And what's your response to that?
Sure. The multiverse is the idea that, yes, the universe is incredibly finely tuned against all odds to make life possible. But the explanation for that is not...
Which all odds? What is this, a movie? Which all odds? There are laws in the universe that guide it to, being what it is today. And it's not fine-tuning. You can just look at our planets. It's not fine-tuning. It's not like intelligently designed. If this was intelligently designed, then the designer is clearly just playing around. Are we in the same universe?
Not that there was a cosmic fine-tuner, an intelligence who set the universe up so that life would be possible, but rather that there's a billion or gabillions of other universes out there that have different combinations of these different settings of these different parameters, and that ours just happens to be the lucky one. And the reason that we have life in our universe is not that it was designed for life, but rather there was a kind of giant cosmic lottery that is responsible, and that life must have arisen somewhere. And again, we just happen to be in the lucky universe.
Would we even consider that to be, do we even need multiverse to even use that idea in a sense? Because the universe we're currently in is quite big, with a bunch of galaxies and a bunch of planets. And we find the compounds that make up life, the things that make up life outside in space. The components of life, we found it in space. So even in just a universe, because of the large number, it is possible to get to us. Because according to the Big Bang, and when we go back to the singularity, the universe has been there for, it can date it back to 13.5 billion, I believe. And our planet has been there since 4.5 billion years. That is a long time before the universe even end up with us.
Oh, and my response.
Yes.
Yes, right. Well, the multiverse hypothesis is specifically relevant to explaining this fine-tuning. But there's a problem with it, and that is that if you have all these other universes out there, the very existence of these other universes does not explain the fine-tuning in our universe. And here's why. If those other universes are separate from our own, then there's no causal connection between them. So whatever happens in those other universes has no effect on our universe, including it has no effect on whatever process was responsible for setting the fine-tuning. So in virtue of that, multiverse proponents have had to propose a kind of common cause of all the universes, a universe generating machine of some kind that could allow them to portray our universe as the lucky winner of a giant cosmic lottery. And that's where the rub comes in.
But is that possible?
Well, yeah, there's a problem with it. And that is that all of the different universe.
It could be possible. Any of this could be possible. It could be possible that a God created this entire thing. Obviously, it could be possible. The likelihood of it, we don't know. We don't know. As I saying, what was before the Big Bang, if anything, we don't know. And that is the best thing. Instead of saying, well, God created it. Not just any God, ignoring every other one. My God. It doesn't make sense, people.
Generating mechanisms that have been proposed. Some based on something called string theory, others based on something called inflationary cosmology, themselves require prior fine-tuning in the universe generating mechanisms. And so you explain the fine-tuning in this universe by invoking a universe-generating mechanism, but that mechanism in turn has to be finely tuned, and so you're right back to where you started without an ultimate explanation for fine-tuning. And yet we know from our experience that...
Yet we know you have no explanation for God. The idea of, because the universe is complex, it needs someone to create it. If you're putting God above the universe, then we have to put something above God. God is more complex than the universe because he made this complex universe. This is according to the same line of logic they draw up. And it leads to infinite regress. It's just a dumb idea.
That when we find something that's finely tuned, think of a French recipe or an internal combustion engine or a radio dial, fine-tuning always requires, in our uniform and repeated experience,
or technology and the things that humans made actually fine-tune, because over time these things actually change. Over time it gets better. Like, remember, like the first cars that were ever made were like shitty compared to the standard of the cars today. You can't even compare a 2013 car to a 2024 car. So is that really fine-tuning when it needs to be improved? And this is how evolution, in a sense, disproved the idea of fine tuning or God designed it. Evolution finds a fitter organism for its environment and it adapts and changes over time. But if it was all designed by one God and it was all just instantly designed by this all knowing, all loving, all powerful God, then it doesn't need to change at all.
Experience, which is the basis of all scientific reasoning, it always requires a fine-tuner, an intelligence. So given that the multiverse hasn't given an ultimate explanation for fine-tuning, the best explanation for fine-tuning is still intelligent design.
You see, that doesn't make any sense. So because, let's take evolution for it. No, let's just take the Big Bang for a second. Because the Big Bang has so many flaws in it, I'm just saying hypothetically, because the Big Bang has so many flaws in it and all that, they haven't answered this, they haven't answered that, it has to be my God that do all this. How do these people even think? Just because you point out that there's a flaw in the theory doesn't mean your theory is right. That's not how that works. And also the idea again of intelligent design is just plainly just wrong. It doesn't make any sense. Why would an intelligent designer create the entire universe with a bunch of planets that no life on it, as much as we'll find out, no life, just components of life, but no life on the planet, create all this just for one little speck in the entire universe? Is that really intelligent?
Do you remember when Joe Rogan said this about God and the creation of the universe?
Oh, we're back to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan. Oh my gosh.
Concept of like a guy in the sky, with a robe on, like what people consider God, that might seem ridiculous, but the idea that there's a powerful force of the universe, like, why wouldn't there be? Like, how else did this happen? Even if that powerful force is just some scientific creation machine that's impossible for you to wrap your head around.
Now, along similar lines, there was a moment where William Lane Craig was in a debate. Listen to how this conversation goes.
But the cause hasn't got to be.
Now, I'm gonna butt in and say this. We don't know. It is okay to say, I don't know. It is okay. It's the best stance to take on a lot of things.
Be God.
Well, remember I gave an argument for thinking that this cause is timeless,
Yes,
spaceless, immaterial, enormously powerful, and personal.
I think it's a computer.
Well, that wouldn't, computers are designed by people.
No, this is a self-designing computer.
Timeless.
Timeless.
Well, that's a contradiction in terms.
Why is it time? What's contradictory about it?
A computer has to function, it takes
Oh
time.
no, this is a special computer.
Yeah, but it has to be logically coherent.
Oh, it's logically coherent.
Yes, you have to be
Oh
logically
no,
coherent.
this
And
computer
besides,
is amazing.
No, besides, it would have to be, as I said,
That is how easy it is to disprove the entire religion and the entire claims made by religion. And just making claims upon claims. So I can make up a claim and say, well, it's all designed by glasses in the sky. It's so powerful it can design anything by just swinging around. But it's also immaterial, so we just call it glasses so we can understand it. It's immaterial, so we don't even know what it is. It's so dumb. Again, I will say this again and point it out. If a God does exist, we would know nothing about this God. Nothing about this God. So the idea and the concept that we can all of a sudden know the attributes of this God and what he feels and what he does and his laws and his rules, or basic bullshit or just bullshit. We would know nothing of this God. Nothing. Moving on.
personal being.
No.
And a computer is a physical.
Not this computer.
Object.
Oh,
Well, then-
no.
Okay, see, what you're doing is what you're calling a computer is really God. A non-physical,
Now they're going to pivot into some of what we're actually facing on this planet as people. And I think the sort of objective and subjective experiences where they collide in the real world is very important and should be looked at. And we should be looking at these things holistically.
I think it's the well. I just lost my mother, and I think the deepest and hardest questions in life are not actually these big.
Well, sorry for your loss. I hope she lived her life and she did not just dedicate it to this invisible sky daddy, and she cares about the people around her and love the people around her.
Big metaphysical questions. I think if you think carefully about them, there's a pretty clear answer. But I think it's the questions that come up because of the events in your own life, and sometimes suffering, sometimes joys, why things went this way rather than that way. Those are the questions I think are the hardest ones, the existential questions of one's own personal experience.
I'm very sorry about your mother.
Oh, I shouldn't have introduced a personal element like that. But
I'm glad you did, because actually it does play into what you just said. Did that whole
No, nothing he just said made any sense to me. And if it made any sense to anyone that's watching this video, please put it in the comments, because I don't get this.
whole experience of losing your mother, did it change any of your thinking about any of this?
I think the experience of grief was something that was unexpected in how intense it was. She had dementia and had been in decline for several years. You think you're prepared when you're losing someone by degrees, but there's a finality of death that I think overtakes all of us in that moment of grief. And there's something about the grief experience that it seems to make everything else pale to insignificance in that moment. And I think it's kind of, my own view of it is this kind of a signal. Like your conscience tells you what's right and wrong. I think grief is telling you about what's really important, and that in that instance, what was important is that we had lost a person of eternal value. And so, I think it
Lost a person of eternal value? What does that mean? Again, if anyone can decode this for me, please put it in the comments.
was, you're never really prepared for the loss of a parent. And I thought I was, but I wasn't.
Do you take comfort because of your religious conviction that you'll see your mother again in an afterlife?
I absolutely do, yeah. And I think
Of course you do, because that's the entire point of your religion, is to give people comfort about the afterlife, the things that we don't know, to give comfort to people about the things that are unknown. Well, who created this? God. Comfort. Oh, what happens after we die? Well, God made a place for people that are doing good and people that are doing bad. If you're good and follow God's law, here you will go. That's basically what religion does. Basically what religion is. It's just comfort for people. So you will get comfort from religion, but I would suggest you to get therapy if you didn't actually grieve normally.
when I was on the Rogan program, it was probing about both the objective evidence for belief in God and my subjective experience. And I would never base an argument to another scientist or philosopher on my subjective experience, but I think belief in God has, I think, legitimate objective and subjective basis. And I think that
Obviously, because it's just a belief. It's just what you believe in. It's tying to your just emotions. I mean, not everything that you believe is tying to emotions, but this is, because there's no evidence for it. It's like saying evolution. I believe evolution happens. Evolution did happen, whether I believe it or not. But there's a difference between that and saying I believe in God. It's basically on emotions, because there's no evidence for God.
mysterious moment when you see a loved one passing, when the body is there, but the person is gone, it raises some profound metaphysical questions, or maybe a metaphysical awareness that there is something more than the material that is.
So I feel something, I feel grief, I feel like there's more to my mother's life and my life than just dying and be brain dead and nothing. So, God.
Part of all of us.
So in a way, what you went through with your mother may have actually intensified your own
Certainly.
belief in
Yeah.
your theory about all
Yeah,
this.
sure.
Because you felt it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You see, that's
Of course, because you want to keep feeling that comfort. It's like a fucking drug. You don't want to stop because she comforts you. You're addicted to it. It's your only place of comfort. Like you can talk to this sky daddy and tell him about all your pain and all your suffering and what you're going through. Pray to him. You want that comfort. Why else are you trying to defend something that there's no evidence for? It's for that comfort to feel like, oh yes, I have the answer to everything, even when you don't.
that's where whenever I argue with atheists, I'm always struck by their refusal to go there into stuff like that. And yet they must themselves, through their own life experiences, have moments and experiences which must test their own conviction.
Yes, atheists feel emotions, but we don't argue from an emotional base to say, well, whether there's a God or whether there isn't. You do know that makes your argument way less valid, way less reliable if you say, well, I feel this, thus God. Because that makes no fucking sense. Your feeling doesn't make, because you're feeling it doesn't make what you're feeling true. Just because you feel that there's a God doesn't mean a God actually exists. But apparently Pier Morgan is a genius, so he knows exactly what atheists are and what we are not.
That there is nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a both and thing if you're a believer. There's plenty of good, solid scientific evidence, good philosophical reasons for belief. But then there are these experiences too that we have along the way that suggest it's not just matter and motion. There's more to the world than the material stuff.
It's not just matter and emotion. There's more to this material stuff. There's more to this. There's more to this. Shut up. There's none. There's no evidence of any. You're just making claims upon claims and consider yourself a scientist but not being skeptical with your own personal belief. I mean, okay that you found comfort in your mother being dead in religion. But I would suggest you actually get therapy and get help. Because that only lasts for a few while. You can maybe, if you live for more years at least, it will only last for a few while. When all the adrenaline and all the praying and all the bullshit comes down, the pain is gonna come back. So this is the laziest video of Daily Dose of Wisdom that I've actually ever seen. It basically say, watch this video and let me direct you to another video and let me direct you to another video. And somehow that made them get about 630 subscribers. Make that make any sense? The best explanation for the universe is not God. We don't know. It's okay to say we don't know, because we don't. We don't know what we don't know. So how can anyone claim they know without any evidence? Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for sticking to the end. Have a great day.